Well, hey there gamers, I'm Professor Meg, and welcome back to Board Game Co. Today I have Alex Radcliffe with me in the house, and we are going to be reviewing Stardew Valley, which is an absolute favorite of mine. So, in Stardew Valley, this is actually a game that is made after a video game. If you know the very popular video game, you can play it on PC, Switch, things like that. I have absolutely loved, I want to say like 800 hours of Stardew Valley. But in the board game, you're going to be doing something very similar. So you are going to be going around the town, you're going to be taking care of your farm, you're going to be meeting different goals, and to win the game, you are going to be working on different objectives. So you have your grandpa's goals that you are working towards, and you also have your Junimo bundles. Those are going to be the two things that you're working toward throughout the game. And the game is also limited to seasons, which is very reminiscent of the video game, where you have spring, summer, fall, and winter. You're on a very limited time track to get everything that you need done, which is a lot of goals, and that is Stardew Valley. Beyond that, you're going to be just be exploring. You can donate things to the museum for fun. You can stop the evil JojaMart Corporation, and you can have a cat or a dog. It's your preference.
Anything else? This is the first word that's spoken in the entire thing.
There's a lot.
There's a lot going on here. There's a whole bunch of things. We're not going to heavily get into everything, but there's a different aspect of the town you're going to be exploring, from the way you're going to be managing your crops up here and trying to gather various animals. You always have the barn and coop in play, and those are going to allow you to take different animal tiles and then eventually start rolling dice to be able to get more produce from those tiles. You're going to have two buildings that are going to be in play at all times. You're going to have a farm harvest. They're going to place different things out. Yes.
Just to correction corner, I believe barns and coops you have to build.
You have to build them, yes. But they're always in play, meaning you have two different buildings that are variable and two buildings that are always in play. You still have to build them.
They're always available.
Available.
They're not in play yet.
They're not in play yet.
Purchase. Okay.
Until you purchase them.
Just okay. Feel free to continue, Alex. You're doing great.
You mentioned already you're going to have the mine. The mine you're going to be exploring, rolling these dice, taking the intersection, and slowly going further and further deep down into the mine as you go. You're going to have the museum where you're storing special items. You're going to have this little area here where you open geodes, and then you're going to be going fishing in 3 separate areas. All of these are designed to get you. The fishing is one of my least fun things until you get the fishing rod upgraded.
The fishing in the video game is so fun. You have to like press it a certain time. What about in the board game? In the board game, it's also very fun. It's dice rolling, which I absolutely love and live for, and I do really well in the fishing, so I still love it.
I like the fishing once you upgrade your tools. Speaking of which, you're going to have different characters. You have 4 different characters, and they have different tools you can have, from upgrading your fishing rods to pickaxe, giving you more tools to dive deeper, to re-roll dice in the fishing, giving you the things you need at your disposal, while you have this whole host of items, of epic items, of mine events you're going to be dealing with, regular events. You're going to have your villagers and your friends, so just a ton of things going on as you go through those 4 seasons of play, trying to figure out the best way to drive forward to get everything you need and accomplish your goals. The game is punishing, will feel punishing, and you're going to have to try to make sure you have your economy and your tableau up and running in order to ultimately achieve all the goals in play.
Now, I think we may have said it, but just to say it again, this is a cooperative game. So everyone is working together toward those goals. It is your shared farm. So there's no competitive aspect to it, which I really appreciate because it is pretty difficult. I've come close to losing most times. I think I've only actually lost this once, though.
I have lost it, I want to say, twice. I think I've won it once, lost it twice.
It is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Which I very much appreciate. I love it. It is deceivingly cute. It is adorable. It is a farm. You have bunnies and chickens and goats, but it's tough.
Now, if you want more information about the game, there's a ton of information out there. You can check out a full playthrough from before you play. I did a fantastic channel, did a full playthrough of the game. Check that out. Past that, we're going to go ahead and dive into the review with our thoughts of the game, starting off with what we like. Meg, you like Stardew Valley, and for context, I've played Stardew Valley 0 times. Meg has played, what, you said 2 hours of Stardew Valley?
2 hours, yes.
2 hours. 2 hours of Stardew Valley. Just a quick 2 hours.
In and out.
Yeah, and for those of you who skip straight to the thoughts part, what was it, 800 hours?
Yeah.
Something. It was a lot of hours in Stardew Valley.
To anyone who's curious, the only things I haven't done in Stardew Valley is I haven't gotten to level 99 in the mines yet, and I never got married.
Wow. Level 99 in mines.
Yep.
How many levels are there?
99.
How many have you gotten to?
I don't remember. You get a reward for 99, so I don't think it tracks for you how low you go, and I don't remember how low I went.
There's only 12 levels in the board game, though. But with that, let's go ahead and dive into our review of this game, starting off with, like I said, Meg, what do you like about the game?
Yeah, so there are a few aspects that I really appreciate about the game. It definitely makes the farm a very important part, which is, you know, the heart of the game. But it also gives you a lot to do around the town. So it has the different areas that you would usually visit in the video game, and they all have different action points for you. So I just think that was done really well. Something else that I really love is the foraging tiles. In the game, it's something very common that you're walking around and you see a little squiggly sticking out of the ground and you're like, what is that? And it could be anything. So I do really like the tile system that they have. And to me, it's like This is silly, but it's a little reminiscent of A Feast for Odin. I was thinking, like, just in the sense that they give you all these tiles, and it's so fun, and you can kind of pick anything you want.
You do have goods, and they are upgradable
Yeah,
goods. I
like
that.
the tile system, like the physical system of it.
There's different ways to get your hands in them from the various animals. I buy that. I was skeptical. My face on camera will show that I was skeptical, but I buy it now.
But yeah, I really enjoy this tray. Like,
you have all these
very,
friends
very
and people you can use. They'll help you in different ways.
Yes, and that is something that I did want to say, actually, Alex, was that for the mechanics that are in this, so there are different people that you befriend, and befriending them will give you hearts, which are a different, like, resource in the game that you need to do different things. But people all have birthdays, just like in the video game. So I feel like with this, the birthday system that they did, you get a boon if you gain them as a follower and it's already their birthday month or their birthday season. And then when it is their birthday season, I think you get the thing again. And then every time there's a trigger on these cards, you also get the birthday ability. So I think that that's something that just made it feel very rewarding and took something that was in the video game and made it purposeful in a board game that I really, really like, particularly the birthday system, and that it feels useful making friends, whereas I felt in the video game it wasn't that useful making friends.
That's fair. As far as myself, there's a few things I like about the game. First of all, the game is loaded with charm. As somebody who has not played Stardew Valley, I appreciate the degree of charm to this presentation as you wander around, gather various things. And there's a strong sense of tableau building as you go through it as well. You are going to be upgrading and developing as you go. Like I said, upgrading the tools is a lot of fun. You really get that flexibility of like feeling like you actually have a lot more control. You're adding more crops, more animals, building your buildings, getting further in the mine. All these things you do across the course of the game give you a sense of more progression. It starts off and you get 3/4 of the way through the game and you're like, I don't know how we're ever gonna get things done. And then that last quarter, there's so much that's happening because of that tableau building, and I really appreciate that sense of accomplishment of kind of having the struggle the entire way through. But then as you get towards that end, towards that last 5-6 seasons, you really start to see the progression. You see that light at the end of the tunnel where you may or may not make it, but you start to understand how it's all coming together, how you actually will be able to get those last grandpa's goals, the bundles, all those things as you go through it. And so I appreciate that the difficulty does lend itself to that sense of progression as you go through it.
I also believe that in this, the JojaMart Corporation is actually more difficult. For me in the video game, I was able to not really deal with them or have too much happen with the JojaMart Corporation. In this, they can shut down things. I forget exactly what the tiles do.
They basically block various spots until you do something about them.
Yeah, and then you have to deal with it and pay into that and stop that as well. That I do feel that Joja is a good threat in this, almost more than the video game.
As far as things you don't like in the game, what do you not like?
I do think sometimes you can get a bit stuck in different areas, especially in the mines. I feel like with the rolling the dice, I don't know how I would play it differently, like maybe if the pickaxe also let you re-roll certain things or something like that, but I feel like the mine system particularly, I've never seen executed well. And I want to say the last time we played, you even went through very well, but it still didn't seem like you were even enjoying it or doing it smoothly. You were like, oh, well, we fell to the bottom.
And I will say, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 editions of this game, and I believe the second edition did make some corrections to that aspect, or to some aspects, and I think the mine was one of them. I think in general the mine is recognized as the hardest goal to achieve. Going through all 12 levels of the mine is just very, very hard to do across 16 seasons, and so 16 turns, not 16 seasons. But yeah, I think the mine is generally recognized to be the most difficult. I find the mine fun, but as far as accomplishing the actual progression of it, that one tends to be hard. For me, there's going to be a bunch of things. The first thing is going through the difficulty scaling. I find this is a game that when you're playing with the full 4 characters, whether or not the number of players, you can control multiple characters each, but when you have the full 4 characters, it feels like you have a chance. And whenever I've played it at anything other than 4 characters, that's why I feel like I'm like, okay, great. I just don't think this balance. And again, I don't know if second edition adjusted that for that or not. I have played this both physically and online.
To clarify what Alex is saying, all of these goals that you're trying to meet, there is always 6 Junimo bundles and there are always 4 of Grandpa's goals. So you always have to meet all 10 of these goals. Now the one thing that you can do is I believe there's a mechanic where if you can't do these cards, if you're at a point where you can't do them, you can pay to change it out. But then you have to be able to meet those cards. So like Alex is saying, you could have 1 character and still have to meet all 10 of those goals.
Yeah. And there is a degree of, most of the goals do have a degree of progression scaling around the character count, so they do have that balance, but it's the sheer action economy of moving around, especially because you have to move around the board and do things. The action economy just gets very, very stagnant at lower player counts. I have found 4, it is a challenge. Anything less than 4, and I almost feel like it's not worth playing. The second thing I'll say is that while I enjoy the arc of the game, it's an arc that for me didn't last that long. As I played the game more and more, I find that the core arc of what you're doing is very similar, very procedural game to game, and not a lot of things mix it up for me, especially because you anyways want to include all 4 characters. So by the time I'm 3 games into it, I feel like I enjoy it, but I'm doing some degree of the same thing, and that kind of lends itself hand in hand with the last thing I have to complain about, which is I think the game is too long for what it is. I think this game feels like a difference of opinions. I feel this game feels like it goes like I think 2 hours long.
I don't even disagree.
Yeah.
But I think to match the video game, I just don't know how you do it better.
I don't disagree with that either. But at the end of the day, I feel that to me, once I played, like the first time, sure. The first time I kind of I'm fine with it. But for subsequent plays, I feel that this ends up feeling like an experience that should have been 60 to 90 minutes and runs 2 hours plus to actually play through. I think it runs a little long.
I would agree. I'm pretty snappy and quick with the rules now that, like, I could set it up without the rules and stuff like that, and it still does play pretty long. One of the things, too, that I was going to touch on was the museum.
Yes.
The museum, I feel like, never really does anything. You can donate things to it, and I believe it does different stuff. I think maybe sometimes the Junimo rewards have to do with it, but honestly, the museum I've never really seen successfully donated to. And the other thing is this crow track. So this is where you're going to be putting your crops. So none of these are crops. Yeah, pumpkins are crops. So if you had a pumpkin, because it is a 5, you would put it here at the 5, and then every time it rains, you would move it down this track. But if it's in the red, when a crow card is drawn, it would get eaten on you. So I just never saw that crow track ever be formidable either. Like, you can fill crops so quickly. I don't think crows ever even eat the crops anyway.
Yeah. As far as final thoughts and rating, and I don't think I actually prepped you the fact that there's going to be a rating here, but as far as final thoughts and rating, I'll go first in this one. For me, I enjoy Stardew Valley. I thought it was very fun and compelling the first time I played. I thought it was fun and compelling the second time I played, and I thought it was a little long for what it is the third time I played. It's one of those games that for me did get a little bit worse as I went through it, as it felt a bit samey game to game. I think that it is a good game, and I had fun with this one, and it's an experience that I think does a great job, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, although I'll let you address that more, does a good job of turning the video game into a board game while maintaining that sense of feel to it. Ultimately for me, it runs a little long, it doesn't have the great difficulty scaling, and it does feel a little procedural game to game, so that while I enjoy it and I can recommend it, I kind of enjoy it as a good game to experience, as opposed to one that I necessarily think lasts as long, at least for me. For me, it's a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoy it, I like it, but I'm also ready to move on from it.
Yeah, for me, I'm not going to give it a rating.
That's fair.
Because I don't do that. But let me know if you guys want me to. Maybe I'll figure out a rating scale, because I don't even have one. But the thing that I was thinking as you were saying this, which I kind of forgot, Alex, is that part of where this game fell flat for me is that you are building out your farm. That is the heart of the game. Everything else is secondary. That's how you're getting it. So you're building out your farm. You have to go to shops to buy seeds. You have to go here to buy animals, all those different things. And that's why you leave your farm. And in this, there's so much focused on the town in Stardew Valley that you don't really experience the farm that much. And in the video game, Alex, you have an entire farm where you place different things and you set up where your crops go. And it's a really fun puzzle that I wish in this there had been some sort of secondary board or tableau to really build your farm. Because I think for it to be Stardew Valley, it did everything great except the farm. And to me, that's disappointing.
An expansion.
To me, I wish there was
expansion.
or like a Stardew Valley 2.0.
Yeah. In any case, that's that. As far as other game recommendations, if you like this, if you want to see something else, if you want to get another game out there, for myself, I'm going to recommend Flamecraft. A very different game, but I think Stardew Valley, one of the areas where it potentially falls flat is how punishing it can be, especially if you're someone walking in expecting a lighter experience, and this is not that. A game that's very different in many senses, but kind of gives me the same feeling and vibe and charm, but while being, I think, a lot more accessible, is Flamecraft from Carbon Alchemy, that I think has a lot of charm around the dragons and the creatures, competitive as opposed to cooperative, but just a very charming game that gives me the same vibes.
Interesting.
And yourself?
So this is funny. Alex asked me what game I would compare it to, and he asked me about 5 minutes before we started the video. And I was like, I don't know. And then I thought about it. And I thought about it. And I thought about a game where you go location to location over a map that's cooperative, that's very punishing and difficult, that has 6 to 10 goals that you're trying to beat, and you're picking up different clue tokens along the way.
I totally thought you were going towards Flamecraft there, the way you tapped yourself.
Oh, no.
I was like, interesting. 5 minutes before, I also thought of Flamecraft.
No, it honestly reminded me a lot of a light, farm-based, almost kid-friendly Arkham Horror. Which sounds insane, but if you took away the decks and you just moved around the map looking for clue tokens and monsters and things along the way, kind of similar.
So you went mechanics, I went charm and feeling.
Yeah.
Which honestly is part of the problem. This game has the charm and feeling of Flamecraft and the toughness of a game like Arkham Horror.
That is kind of cool.
In any case, that is basically it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And have a good one.
Bye.